What episode number is this?
This is like 128. Hello, Explore Scientific USA. I have built the Meet Stargazers app precisely for this purpose. Short presentation video. Don't know. Mr. Grace is on the Astro Beard.
Oh, Richard.
James, the astrophotographer. Good afternoon, everybody. You guys will have to watch tomorrow's show with Professor David Kipping from University of Columbia. He is studying exomoons, which I've been talking about a little bit. How did you learn about him, Jerry?
I'm on the one of the test team forum.
Mm-hmm.
I think on that one somebody announced his paper or a paper he was working on.
Yeah.
On the exomoons, and I found this paper and started reading about it, and that's when I told you about it.
I just can't. I mean, that just blows my mind. That I mean, it's hard enough to find exoplanets, okay, and now you want to find a moon going around an exoplanet.
Yes, it's very. He's been working at it for at least 10 years, I think, according to what I read.
It is stunning to me. Amazing.
Mm-hmm. Keep pushing the envelope.
Yeah. Oh, it's episode 124, not 128. Sorry.
Okay, 124.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to go back and review his paper before tomorrow.
Yeah.
He's wrote several papers. The one I ran across, I have to look and see what it is exactly. But that'll be interesting to hear what he has to say about it. And what.
Yeah, you'll have to help me interview him.
Planet business.
Mike Wiesner was saying, thanks for having me on the show yesterday. It was awesome to have you on. What are you talking about? It's a pleasure to have Mike Wiesner on our show. The Dogs and Cats of Space and Astronomy. That's a public group on Facebook. You would have had to do some, you would have had to be a dog or cat astronaut to actually belong to that group. Pekka says, you know, this may be the only media on the internet that makes sense, where you can learn something every single show. So thanks, Explore Scientific. Pekka, thank you very much. That's very nice for you to say. By the way, Pekka, you need to email Tyler at explorescientific.com. He's trying to find you.
One way or another, you're going to be on the ground in 7 minutes. We want it to be there safely. I'm Al Chen, and I lead the landing team for Mars 2020. Entry to set landing is all about getting the vehicle from the top of the atmosphere down to the bottom safely. We hit the atmosphere going 12, 13,000 miles per hour. We have to deploy a supersonic parachute. And that's all before we get down into powered flight. See, we have a new system that'll take over at this point. It'll start taking images of the ground. That'll let us figure out where we are in latitude and longitude. Jezero Crater, the site we're going to with Mars 2020, was actually rejected for Curiosity because the site was considered too unsafe. And really the terrain was way too rough. But now we have the ability to land in these places that we never really could go to before. The Jezero Crater site, if you look at it from space, is pretty obviously a delta. We think that Mars was habitable about 4 billion years ago. So the question is not just where was that life, but also where could it be conserved for 4 more billion years for us to find it later. I worked on Curiosity for 10 years, so this is a very familiar feeling. I think I was too young the first time to really realize what was at stake. Stake being on the order of 11, 12 we are in powered flight. I've been on the other side of this too. My wife was front and center on Insight. This is actually the same seat that my wife was sitting in for the Insight landing. The same seat that I was in actually back in 2012 for the Curiosity landing as well. A lot of history for us in this room. We might be uniquely positioned as two folks who are married to each other to know what it's like to land things on Mars.
Well, hello, everybody. Scott Roberts and Jerry Hubbell here on the OpenGOTO Community Live. It's great to see you all here. Pekka, I wanted to thank you again for your nice comments. It's always interesting. There's something always new and interesting every day in astronomy. And while I tend to kind of focus on a lot of space exploration and stuff, we have some really cool things happening. I mean, we're just weeks away from landing on Mars again, and so that should be a big media event, I think. And I got my fingers crossed that they land in Jezero Crater safely, and if we do, we're gonna learn some pretty cool stuff. We're either gonna find out, in this crater, a pretty good shot at whether or not there ever was life on Mars. Although a lot of time, if billions of years have passed since there was life. Could radiation or things break things down? I don't know, but I think that we should be able to see some sort of microfossils, remaining in the soil and in the rocks and that kind of thing. So we'll see, and maybe one day we can dig in the mud.
I suspect we'll have to dig down quite a ways.
Yeah, I think so
see
too.
Anything.
I think so too. So. But we're trying to do that, and it's obviously important enough for humanity to try to answer some of these questions. If you went and visited the Jet Propulsion Laboratory today and you talked to the scientists there, it is all about trying to find life off of this planet, and and they all feel pretty confident that eventually they're going to find it. So, so it's. Tantalizing things, in Venus's atmosphere still. There's still being argued whether or not they found phosphine, and they have that ALH, I always forget the number, for the Martian fossil that they found in Antarctica that they think has, bacterial fossils in it. Or fossilized bacteria.
Yeah.
Let's change that around. Anyhow, and what else is happening? I know that, I can't give you any details right now, but I know that the American Astronomical Society is, looking at ways to engage amateur astronomers to a greater degree. They feel that, this once, purely just professional organization is, has realized over the last couple of decades how important amateur astronomers are to the professional world, and I think over the last 10 years we've probably seen a lot more pro-am projects coming up. Jerry's involved in one of them right now with the TESS search for exoplanets. And how do you find that whole program, Jerry? Just being involved in pro-am.
Well, it's very exciting, of course. It's really an honor to be able to be a member of the same team of people that are doing the initial research and discovery of, TESS is a detection. It's like a finder scope. It couldn't determine by itself whether there were exoplanets that it detected. Were they real exoplanets or not? So that's So the whole premise behind this mission was to absolutely include ground-based. The ground-based mission is actually the more important part of the mission, not just the satellite, because that's where they discover whether there really are
So satellite
exoplanets or if they're eclipsing binaries. Is typically false positives or eclipsing binaries.
Sure.
So that's why the ground team is really important, and just to be able to be included in that and to provide data is really exciting.
Jamie Borland says, Scott, everyone is out of your reducer corrector for the 127 ED, including us. That's why everybody's out. People bought too many of them, if I could say that.
Yeah, right.
They bought too many telescopes for 2020. And that is Jamie, that is a fact in the entire industry right now. Celestron, Meade, us, Ioptron, name the company. Okay, they're probably very low on inventory or out of inventory right now. And so
you don't want to say they're scraping the barrel with inventory, but that's kind of what it is, isn't it?
It's not scraping the barrel. It's just
we're not reassembling parts to ship out to customers. We're not quite that bad.
No. We do have a products that would be considered our certified pre-owned stuff, but we have to go back through and re-inspect everything and make sure it's good enough to be sold as a certified pre-owned scope.
Do we have that stuff on hand?
What's that?
Do we have some of those on hand? Is that another opportunity for people to buy equipment that they may not realize?
There's some as QA finishes up with them, they go on to our page. You can check. If you're really having a tough time finding a telescope and you want one, this is a place to go check, and that gets updated as we get it. Jamie says your product's well worth a wait. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. Very honestly, I've never seen anything quite like this where we were so sold out of product. It happened a little to a degree during that big Mars opposition. I always forget which year that was, in the 90s, when, or maybe it was the early 2000s, where we had the the closest it was in 60,000 years.
Maybe it was 2003, maybe, I don't know.
Something like that, yeah. That was a lot of dealers and manufacturers sold out to the walls with that one. And it takes a while to build it all back up. The stuff is not built fast. That's for sure. Right. It takes a long time to get glass. It takes and then you got to go through the whole manufacturing process.
It's like you said, this isn't a mass production. This is handmade stuff.
All of it is. Even the toy telescopes are handmade. Everything's handmade in this industry. So, that's the way it is. Celtic Raven says they are out, out, out. If you can get me an adapter plate for an LX90 wedge, you would be my hero. You know what I think, guys? I think that we're going to be looking a lot at used and maybe traded stuff. So check out Cloudy Nights. I think there's a site, Astromart is still another one that you could go and check out. Check the dealers too. They take in some of them used products. I know that OPT does. I know that Woodland Hills does. High Point probably does. Astronomics. You can check all those people to see if they're getting some used stuff in.
The forums is good. I mean, there's a lot of astronomers out there that may be willing to start parting with their equipment now. Especially if you just start posting messages on the forums saying, "Hey, I want this," and look at the classifieds. And there's still a lot of equipment out there on the classifieds.
Yeah. There's lots of stuff out there. That's very true. Celtic Raven says, darn it, I was hoping you were going to say, I still have one of those from my old days. And then Jamie says, when COVID is over. I don't know if it's ever actually really, truly going to be over, but I think that we will get control of it this year. So I think that's going to happen.
Well, I think really we're going to get back to normal in terms of our interactions socially with everybody.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. We've got, I know I'm supposed to get my vaccination. It's estimated to be around April is when I can get mine. But there's, and I'm older, so, I have, I'm not in the general young population anymore, but, so I think that we're probably looking at June, July, August, something like that. We can start traveling again and going to events. So it'll feel weird, I think, just being able to get on a plane and just go, so anyhow. Let's see who else we have here today. I'm looking, I think, at yesterday's chats as well. A guy named Sujay Patil said that he has a Meet Stargazers app. So if you go to meetstargazers.com, I have not seen this. I don't know what it's all about, so I can't say that I recommend it or don't recommend it. So anyways, I'll let you decide that. Of course, Richard Grace is with us, James the astrophotographer, Mike Wiesner, Pekka, Andrew Corkill, Stefan Del Pra, Cameron Gillis, Jeff Wise, Michael Whitaker's on. He says it's 10:04 p.m. here in the UK. Not anymore, almost 10:20. Let's see, who else? I think I mentioned everybody else so far. Chris Larson, Bergman Scooter, Brian Fanning, happy full moon.
Yep, full moon.
Full moon.
It was near full last night. They cleared up. It's supposed to snow here. It was supposed to snow last night or night before last, and it didn't do it. I guess it was last night. And Monday, I think it's going to snow here on Monday.
We had a dusting, Let's see. And who else? Steve Malia's watching. I got.
Good.
He's got one. So that's Ontario Telescope.
Good.
Yeah, OntarioTelescope.com.
Steve, I want to say something. Steve, answer my emails. I think I sent you one today. Pretty sure.
Steve is. I'm sure he's a whirling dervish up there. He is a busy guy.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Hopefully his business is doing really well this year too.
I think if you're in the telescope business this year, you did really well. Libby of the Stars is there. Hello from Libby. Bergman says, I'm older than you. I got mine day before yesterday. Only one left to go. Oh, he's talking about the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Mike Wiesner said IDA is highlighting his app. That's cool. I'll have to check it out. Thanks, Mike. And Jim says, I had my second dose of the vaccine a week ago. I can literally feel the antibodies chasing the synthetic spike proteins around in my body. What is that? Is it itch, or what does it feel like? Tickles? Or I don't know, so anyhow. But we're all happy to have you here today. Tomorrow, I'm excited to have our speaker to talk to exomoons, it's David Kipping is the gentleman, so it's going to be very exciting. I don't know how he finds. You read some of the documents and stuff. How does he find exomoons going around an exoplanet?
It's just, I've got to review his paper again, but when I first discovered it, he talks about, he's been working on this for 10 years, but it's very, very precise measurements. I can say that. I have to go back and review the actual technique.
Now, do you think, is he using like the diffuser?
No, he's doing work with spectroscopy, but also with transits. But it's a very high precision measurement with big telescopes, is what it is. And there's a
Doppler effect.
That's part of it. So if you you look for harmonics and different features in the light curve that are regular. So you detect these really tiny changes with that. But I've actually got to go back and review his paper before tomorrow. So when he's on, I can ask him some questions.
Yeah. I was watching some videos with him on. He seems very engaging and certainly able to talk at any level of someone's understanding. So I think it's going to be great. That'll be at 4:00 tomorrow. It's going to take the place of the First Light Chronicles show. So the whole show will be devoted to him. And then we are not going to have a Tuesday Global Star Party. We're pushing that off until Thursday, February 4th. And that will be, that will be with Astronomy magazine. Now, we talked about it a little bit before. The focus of it will be, we have the editors and contributors from Astronomy magazine coming on, of course, including David Eicher. But David also invited Dr. Alan Stern, and Alan is the principal investigator of the new Horizons spacecraft that went, the only spacecraft to go past Pluto, which is the planet that Clyde Tombaugh discovered. And, we're going to celebrate the 115th birthday of Clyde Tombaugh on February 4th, which is the day that, of course, is his birthday. And so
it's cool that you're able to get all the stars aligned to get everybody together, I guess, for that.
Yeah. So you don't want to miss this show. I'm just going to tell you that right now. So you want, get your Pluto questions ready, and let's go beyond is it a planet or not a planet? It's a world out there.
It's a world,
and
it's
a
right.
very special world. And, in a class all by itself. And I think that it's it's got some very unique stuff going on. There's geographic or geological activity on this world, and it's got its own moon and
a very large moon.
And a large moon, exactly.
Yeah,
which
is like a twin planet, like we're considered a twin planet, right?
That's right. But I understand that Charon and Pluto are really different, so was it captured? Did it capture this world, or what happened?
I don't know how you capture which one captured which, because they're so large compared to each other. It's not like you've got this little tiny asteroid that you grabbed out of the solar system.
Yeah.
Not that way at all. It's like It's almost like the planet split in half, like they think the moon formed from the Earth when we got a collision.
Mm-hmm.
it split off a piece of the Earth and formed the moon and the mass of the
Oh,
main the
like
other
two
planet.
two planetoids collided or something
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
pulled apart or something. Anyways, it's going to be cool. We mentioned it, I think, during the last Global Star Party, but when we were talking to David Eicher about the population of galaxies, and I think it was just earlier this in 2020 or maybe in 2019 when they came up with a galaxy estimate of something like 2 trillion galaxies in the universe. And now that's been scaled way back. It was like 100 billion galaxies. Now it's scaled back to hundreds of billions. And that was done by New Horizons as well. So New Horizons spacecraft that Alan Stern and his team are operating is still a very active mission right now. And they are way out at the edge of the solar system, and they're doing some amazing stuff. Alan's, reputation is to take, just absolutely squeeze out every ounce of performance and science that he can out of the dollar that was spent. And so,
that's great.
and he's doing a great job with that. And so it's just, it's totally cool. And so Alan Stern was on with us before. He's coming back again, and I just love that. And
do you think he learned that from Explore Scientific?
where you take an employee and you
That's why we try to
every ounce of their their
No,
essence out of them.
No, our equipment does that. Our equipment does that, right? It's got the highest
True.
performance.
Our
for the
employees do
cost.
that too.
Right, exactly. You just squeeze a turnip expecting blood. You know?
There's other companies that look at how many employees that we actually have versus what we actually do, and I think they just shake their heads, because we are, I can say now, we're not the biggest player, but we're a major player in amateur telescope circles. I think that the most important thing that we do, though, it's not how big that we are or how many telescopes we sell. I think it's, being able to take care of customers in the way that we feel is right, and so we are, and that doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes, because we do.
We do make mistakes,
but
that's right.
we admit those mistakes, and we do everything that we can to make up for them and to keep people happy and pleased that they have worked with Explore Scientific. So I guess that's my little commercial for the company.
Yeah.
But anyhow. Is there any other things that I wanted to bring up today? I think that's kind of it for the moment. Jerry, you have been going through the mentor program. You covered
I've got
shows ago all those different terms about what can happen with drive performance on a mount.
Right.
And things that can affect an astrophotograph. The last show, we've done a couple of things since then, so I'm forgetting at the moment.
Oh, so I started
at?
this presentation that I gave 10 years ago or so.
Oh, that's right.
Eight or 9 years ago. I covered the first part of that presentation, which was
and you were going to cover the second part now.
Right,
That's
so photometry, I just did an introduction to what
and
photometry
now it's
is.
astrometry, right?
Astrometry, that's right.
Okay.
So,
all right. So maybe you can first clarify what the difference is. They both have tree in them, right?
That's right. There's a study of something, right?
That's right. It's a study.
It's actually so photometry, you got metry, which is measure, okay?
Yeah.
And photo, which is light. So measuring light is what photometry is about.
Mm-hmm.
Let me bring up the presentation here. And then astrometry is actually measuring stars, right? And specifically, it's about measuring star positions or any kind of object positions that are in space. So the first part of this, I'm going to cover the history and origins, and then probably just do a basic overview of what the measurement, how we do the measurement for the positions of and I got into astrometry because I was really interested in measuring minor planets, asteroids, their positions, and tracking them and doing that work. So, and it's amazing what amateurs can do today in terms of precision for measuring the position of
It's
these
amazing
objects.
what Hipparchus did in 190
Well,
BC. I
that's
mean,
right.
I'm blown away by what he's
So
done.
Hipparchus started this, right? He started a star catalog. He's the one that came up with the magnitude system. But the way he did these stars, he used the catalogs that were created by his predecessors. Timocharis, I guess that's how you say his name, Timocharis and Aristillus. You know, it's funny about names and these names and words in astronomy. If you read this stuff, you have in your own mind how they're pronounced, and then when you talk to people, you'll say it, and they'll look at you like, what? Like I always say Beetlejuice, right? Some people say Beetlegeese,
Betelgeuse, Beetle
and
guys,
and
Beetle.
so the other thing is Eratosthenes and
Yeah,
Eratosthenes, and you know, these Greek words, these Greek
Erasthenes.
names, you
Yeah.
know, they're hard to sometimes
So,
if you don't talk to
okay,
people.
so the was he Dutch? Astronomer that they often call Tycho.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and some people say no, 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 it's not pronounced Tycho. It's pronounced Tico.
Tico,
Okay,
yeah, right.
right. And
Mm-hmm.
so we had a guy from maybe it's Denmark. I can't remember where Tycho's from, or Tico or Tycho or however you want to call him. But he said his name is pronounced Chugo.
Hugo,
Chugo, like chewing
really.
gum, Chugo. We all go, because we
What?
were talking about, we were at this international thing in Germany one time at the Photokina. And they had all these people from all these different countries. And John Diebel, who was the founder of Mead Instruments, he said, he did a toast and everything. And he says, everybody tell us who is the most famous astronomer of all time from your country, you know?
Hmm.
And so different people came up with different things. And then Chugo came up, and everybody's heads turned and go, who is Chugo? So there you go.
Right,
You know,
right. How do you how do you how do you say his last name? Brahe. Is it Brahe or is it Bra
he
or
just we didn't
Bray?
get past Chugo.
Yeah, no, it's Hugo
You know, we
Bray.
were laughing so hard, I think we were going to choke on our ravioli or whatever it was we were eating. So it was pretty funny.
Right. So Hipparchus had two of his predecessors. He was able to use their star charts that they created early on. So that was the first. That was the first form of astrometry. Was from these guys that created these star charts. He used the stellar positions on those charts to make his observations. And he also discovered the precession of the Earth's axis based on these measurements that he did on them. So that's pretty cool that he was able to give enough precision to his measurement to where he could detect the precession of the Earth's axis, which is basically the slow drift of the sky coordinate system over time, over a 26,000 year period, based on the wobble of the Earth's axis. So
Yep.
we're fortuitous at this time to have the Polaris as very near the North Star, or the North Celestial Pole, I should say.
Oh, that's
Um,
true.
and we're just, it's fortunate
Makes
for
it
us in the
easy for
northern,
us.
yeah, for the northern hemisphere. And in 5,000 years, it's not going to be anywhere near there.
Now, am I correct also, Jerry? Didn't Hipparchus, didn't he refine longitude and latitude
I'm
readings
sure.
on the Earth as well?
I'm sure he was able to do that work because it's
Yeah,
related. Hmm. He probably discovered what the tilt of the Earth's axis is. And
yeah.
so at that time, regardless of what people think in terms of popular myth, people back then didn't think the Earth was flat.
Right. That's a new thing.
Right, exactly. And it's really a growing thing too on the internet. That's amazing. But people understood that the Earth was round. They didn't. I mean, a lot of people that didn't weren't knowledgeable maybe thought that the Earth was flat, but people that studied the sky and observed stars, they knew that the Earth was round.
Right.
So astrometry, is the precise measurement of the position and movement of stars and other bodies such as the major, dwarf, and minor planets. I'd include dwarf because Pluto's now considered a dwarf planet, even though it's a world. I should say just worlds. Several different types of information can be derived from the precise measurement of these celestial bodies. So the position of these bodies is referenced to the celestial sphere based on a projection of the Earth's coordinate system and rotational axis. So basically, the coordinate system, the celestial coordinate system, is basically a projection of the Earth's longitude and latitude coordinate system out into space as a projection. And so we have the same thing like the equator projects out, and you have the celestial equator. You'll have the pole, the North Pole and South Pole on the Earth gets projected out to the North Celestial Pole and South Celestial Pole, that kind of thing. And the measurements are similar. And I don't know if I talk about that on the next one. Let's see here. Yeah, so the Earth's longitude and latitude project out. But so the Earth's longitude is the same as the right ascension. Okay, that's the direction that the Earth's turning. All right. And it's in hours. It's measured in hours instead of degrees like it is on the Earth. It's measured in hours, minutes, and seconds in right ascension, because it's a passage of time. And one rotation of the Earth is you come around back to nearly the same spot in the sky. So that's why they measure it right ascension in hours, minutes, and seconds. And then latitude projects out, and it's called in the declination. In degrees, minutes, and seconds. So you can consider the celestial equator is equal to 0 degrees, just like on the Earth, and the North and South poles are 90 degrees and negative 90 degrees, just like latitude measurements on the Earth's surface. So that's the coordinate system that we use to measure the position of these celestial objects. Since all celestial bodies move, some just slower than others, and when we were in school, remember when we were in grade school, people used to refer to the stars as the fixed stars.
Yeah, the fixed stars.
Because they were just, we didn't have the ability as amateurs anyway to detect any movement of the stars. So they taught astronomy that way in the school system. They probably still teach it that way if they teach it at all.
Well, that's the other part.
Yeah, right. That's a problem, that's what we've run into.
Science in school these days. Yeah.
Astronomy was always a big thing in school, I remember.
Yeah.
But that's unfortunately gone by the wayside a little bit.
Yeah. But there are great teachers in science and astronomy in schools today. It's just that I don't think that there's enough science in schools in general,
Right.
So
I guess the only science that's really being pushed is social science, which is another topic.
that is another topic, yes.
All right. So when you do a measurement, you have to reference a time when you did the measurement. That's called the epoch. Now that's another term. I call it epoch. I don't know how other people pronounce it. Is it epoch? Epic is EPIC, not. It could be an epic epoch, I guess.
Epoch.
But so when you take a measurement, you're doing it like today. Like this is the current epoch, is the current date, and you take a measurement. But in order to, for example, if you're measuring an asteroid tonight we're going to measure an asteroid. It's taken at a date and time. That's the current time and date or current epoch. You want to reference it because you have reference measurements, and the way orbits are calculated, you need to reference it to a time that's a standard epoch. And right now everybody uses January 1st, 2000 or J2000 as the
that's kind of the standard
epoch. That's the standard epoch right now for all measurements in the sky. And so all the star positions, it's very noticeable. Even over the last 20 years, star positions have changed. The right ascension and declination are different than what they were 20 20 years ago. So when you're doing measurements, when you're doing astrometry, you have to reference this epoch, this J2000, and it's actually measured from January 1st at 12 noon UTC. That's the date of 2000. That's the actual date and time that J2000 is. So stars move. A lot of people know because of the proper motion of the stars. Stars are moving across throughout the galaxy different ways, and you can measure that. You can actually see some stars move over just a few month period. What's the one called? The fastest moving star? It's crap, I can't remember. There's one star that's really got the highest proper motion. It's the highest proper motion star. It's called, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll find it for you.
I can't recall the name of it right now. But again, you can measure it over like a month or two's period as an amateur. You can see the star actually move compared to the other stars that are in the background.
Barnard's.
Barnard's star, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you go to here, this is a good site here to look for high proper motion stars.
Mm-hmm. So since these stars are moving, when we do a measurement of an asteroid, we have to take that into account if we want the most precise measurement we can get away with. Okay, we need to understand what the proper motion of and that's in our catalog, in our reference catalogs that we use to do the measurements. Are there any questions so far about any of this?
Well, just comments.
Okay. All right.
Jim Norwood says, I think I recall Jerry telling us a while back about the R index of stars and such is updated every 50 years.
Yep. I just switched that page on my presentation to talk about that. So
yeah, isn't it true though that isn't a lot of astronomy software or some astronomy software processed for the day that you are viewing it on the screen?
Oh yeah, so exactly. So that's the apparent. So there's a couple of different coordinate systems. One is the apparent system, which is the day-to-day position of the star.
Yeah.
And because the catalogs are so refined now that we do have proper motion information to do that, to do the calculation. Star charts like Carte de Ciel, and I'm sure Stellarium and the Star X also does these calculations. So when you go out under the sky tonight to look at the star and you move your mount to point at the star, it's using the apparent position of the star, the calculated position for today in terms of right ascension and declination. And then, so it corrects the J2000 position in the catalog to the current date's processed position. And in fact, Explore Stars does this. I've got a precession calculation in the Explore Stars in the database, in the program that calculates the precession of the star and corrects for it and the alignment stuff. So that's actually how it's done. You correct for that. It's for that position. Mm-hmm. And like you said, every 50 years is a standard epoch. Okay, so the last one, when we were growing up, you remember, Scott, it was 1950.
That's right.
Every star chart we had in school or we bought had 1950 right ascension declination values in the star charts.
True.
And then around
when Sky Atlas 2000 came out,
Right. So around 1986, when I bought my Meade LX200, the new coordinate system was J2000, and that's when Will Tirian put out his famous star charts.
Right.
And for J2000, and now we're on the other side of J2000. I expect in the next 5 to 10 years we're going to be switching over to 2050.
2050, yeah.
Which will be interesting for us because we'll start it out in 1950 and come over and then end up in 2050. Scott,
I just wonder if there's going to be paper charts in that.
Oh time. Yeah, there'll be paper charts.
You think so?
Yeah. I guess. If we're still alive, we'll still like paper charts.
If we're still alive,
People that are in our age group, I guess.
maybe. Yeah.
You know,
I
I've
don't
got
know.
I've got
When
lots of
you're
different
when
charts.
you're painting your monitor on your wall, though,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
you can have a
A
star
wallpaper
chart that
monitor.
probably
Yeah,
looks like paper. Okay.
yeah,
I mean, there's the monitors are getting to be amazing. So,
yeah, yeah.
hmm
So the date chosen is usually used for a period both before and after the epoch date. So the epoch date is the middle of the thing because that's where the least amount of error is. So epoch 2000 should have been from 1975 to 2025. And then, but I think you'll start seeing charts come out right before 2025. That'll be epoch 2050. It'll be
yeah.
kind of cool to see. Now, just because we moved to a new epoch doesn't mean I say valid. That's really a misnomer. They're still valid. Even the 1950 positions are valid because if you're looking at data that was taken back then, you have to use that as the reference. Like all these glass plates that these observatories have,
Yeah.
they're referenced to 1900 probably, a lot of those.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. We
Um,
saw some of those glass plates at Yerkes Observatory, including we saw the 1950 glass plate that was done at the total eclipse to confirm an earlier uh, image uh, that they thought confirmed the bending of light around the sun.
sun, right,
The bending of starlight around the sun
right.
that Einstein predicted. And they had two shots. They had two teams. One team came up with conflicting data to the other team, but and then they did the whole experiment over again in I think it was about 1950, and they were able to confirm that yes, in fact, Einstein was right once again.
Hmm. Yeah, right, exactly.
Right? So,
So just to give you an idea of how much a star position changes over time in right ascension declination, this was when I gave the talk. It was around March of 2012, and these were the current position of Dubhe Alpha Ursa Major. 11 hours 3 minutes 31.8 seconds and 61 degrees 41 minutes, almost 5 seconds in declination. And for 2000, you can see the right ascension change from 31.8 seconds to 43.5 seconds, or it went down from 43 to 31, which is kind of interesting. And then the declination changed from 45 minutes, arc minutes, to 41 arc minutes. That's quite a change
it's quite a change.
over 12 years.
Right.
So you could easily detect the change over a year's period as an
Right.
amateur if you were to do precise measurements.
Very cool.
So the way these pre-photography era, there were several methods used to measure star position. The main instrument was called the Meridian Circular Transit Telescope, and there's two examples of a transit telescope. And the way this telescope worked is it only moved in one axis. The main axis in azimuth was pointed directly on the meridian. So that transit telescope looked for transits of the meridian, okay? So it timed precisely when a particular star passed the meridian. Okay, that's how this telescope worked. It'd be kind of cool to operate a transit telescope and do these measurements
Easy. You only
yourself.
have to move it up and down, right?
That's right, exactly. You just have to precisely measure the altitude or the declination.
Yeah. Maybe getting that precise measurement is the hard part.
Yeah, you can see how big and beefy these mounts are, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure the position encoders were very accurate.
Right.
This is a newer one. That's a really old one here.
Those two. I mean, look at the massive pillars that. So I mean,
Oh yeah,
holding up the the measuring part of it.
So if you look up transit telescope in Wikipedia, you can read all about it.
Now there is a question, and Celtic Raven said you answered half of it already, but how much shift in these stars, and does it differ from close and further away, if that matters? Question mark.
So there's two parts. There's two types of motions that we're talking about. One is the proper motion of the star, which every star is independent of every other star. So you're going to have random motions
all
there.
moving, right? So
they're all moving different directions and different amounts. So that's one term of the motion. The other term of the motion is due to the Earth's wobble or precession, and that affects all the stars the same way. Okay. Now the amount of movement in right ascension declination is different depending on the declination, because stars near the north celestial pole or south celestial pole will not move in apparent motion that much because they're very close to the rotational axis. So at that point, they're not really moving. But further away, I think, is that you get further motion due to precession in terms of the coordinates.
right.
So depending on, at different points in the sky, you'll have different amounts of motion for each star, but it's all due to the same effect. It's due to the precession of the Earth's poles. And it's just a wobble. It's like when you see a gyroscope and it gets near the end of its life, when it's still spinning around, it starts to wobble.
Right.
That's exactly what the Earth is doing. Not that the Earth's getting to the end of its life, but that's that's the wobble of the Earth's axis. All right. Any other questions?
So if I look at, I'm looking at a graph right now, and it says that a star will have, proper motion, which you discussed. It has radial velocity, okay, which is how fast it may be moving away from us. Space velocity, which is a different term to me, and transverse velocity.
So that's the velocity across of our field of view as opposed to the radial velocity, which is in and out from us.
It's interesting. There's a lot that goes into the measurement of stars.
And the reason they're able to detect these different terms in the motion is because you start with the largest term, right? And you do a measurement and you determine, oh, this is because of the precession of the Earth. And then you subtract that out, right? And then you see what the residual motion is.
Yep.
And so the residual motion is caused by other things. Then you start doing the measurements of the residual motion and say, oh, we can postulate it's because of X, Y, and Z. And then you do more measurements and you say, oh, okay, this is what it is. And so that's the routine. That's how you do science, basically. You do measurements, you make hypotheses on what's causing the results, and then you reduce that, you remove that effect or that term, and then you discover other things. And that's what Einstein did when he postulated the theory of relativity based on Newton's, because Newton's calculations weren't quite perfect. They thought they were at the precision they were able to measure, but once we got into the 20th century, we were able to do more precise measurements and discover that things aren't quite right with Newton's calculations. That's the way it is with these measurements. You start to discover different things that are going on under the scenes when you uncover them.
Cameron is asking a question. How often and to what magnitude are all stars and objects surveyed for their proper motion?
There's been several missions sent by NASA and other countries also. Hipparchus was one of the more recent ones. The Hipparchus mission, which was named after Hipparchus, of course, because he was involved with stellar position and stellar brightness. So that mission did some very precise measurements of proper motion. the most recent satellite that we're getting data from now and using today is the Gaia European mission to do stellar position measurements. So they're constantly refining these measurements and creating bigger and bigger databases or catalogs. And the catalogs are so huge now. The one that I use, there's two of them. One's called the UCAC, which has been around for about 10 to 15 years. That's a very precise catalog. It's got good proper motions in it. But the one after that had something like, I'm going to say 50 to 100 million stars. The successor to that was the URAT, which is another U.S. Naval Observatory catalog. Now, these catalogs were created from ground observations with the observatories of the U.S. Naval Observatory. And they're very precise also to a point. And but the URAT catalog has 500 million stars in it, up to magnitude 18, 19, something like that. And then we got the space-based catalogs, which Hipparchus and Gaia are the most recent examples of, and those have billions of stars in them. I imagine the Gaia, I don't know exactly how many stars it has in, but it's probably exceeds what the URAT catalog has in it. It's probably down to magnitude 19, 20, something like that. So we've got a good survey of the galaxy for sure, in terms of stars.
And we'll probably always measure stars in surveys, because it's a changing dynamic universe. I mean, we can't not do this. So
that's right.
There's not going to be a point where we go, oh yeah, that's precise enough. That's good enough.
No. So for example, the proper motions, they may be constant for certain stars, but they may not be constant. You can, and one of the things that they do with astrometry, you can actually measure, depending on how close the star is, you can actually measure the star's orbital period and orbit. And so the nearest stars, that's what astrometry was used for, to be able to measure double stars and their orbital periods and stuff like that.
Right.
So one of the things that called a measuring engine was used to measure glass plates, and that's even today. That's why we call when we do this same measurement on CCD images, we call it plate solving, because it talks back to the terminology that was used in the last century with measuring engines on glass photographic plates to measure the XY position of the object. Now, of course, you always had to have a reference object to measure against, because it's a relative measurement, and that's what the transit telescopes were all about, giving us a reference to our earthly position. So unlike a photometric measurement where we define a reference star out in space in terms of defining what does magnitude 0 look like, or magnitude 1, what is the definition of that in terms of a star? We actually have an astrometric position that's based on our measurement from the ground as we look at the sky based on the Earth's rotation and position in space. So that's a little bit different for astrometry. We do have a given position as a reference. So that's what the measuring engine. This is an old style measuring engine. That's at UVA. I was able to. When I was going to college, I got to look at this measuring engine and see how it worked. That was kind of cool.
That's cool.
Back in 1980.
So you just load like a glass plate into it?
Yep, and it's got an XY stage. It's just like a microscope stage.
Okay.
And it's got these big wheels to measure the position. See these? It's just like right ascension and declination setting circles.
Yeah.
It's basically the same kind of thing.
It's cool.
And you
Everybody
set a reference
have one.
Yeah.
Should have a telescope, a binocular, a microscope, and a measuring engine.
A measuring engine, that's right. It's got to weigh 500 to 1,000 pounds.
At least. You don't want it to wobble.
No, it's like an optical bench. You want the thing to weigh a ton so that it's stable as a rock,
Right. Yeah. Maybe build a foundation for it that's separate from the foundation of your house.
That's right. Have a pier that you mount it on that's separate from the whole.
That's right. Just cut a hole in the floor
That's
and just
right.
go down to bedrock.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So today I talked about this. Amateurs today, and even since the beginning of the 21st century, and even before then, we
Wow.
use U.S. Naval Observatory. It's accurate to tens of milliarc seconds as the UCAC database,
Yeah, that's great.
and that's a great reference. Of course, it's and I actually got a DVD when I first started doing this work about 10 years ago, almost 12 years ago. I wrote to the U.S. Naval Observatory and got a DVD of the UCAC catalog back then, and they go down to about 18th magnitude. And so that's what you use to measure position with solar system objects like minor planets. You reference it against these stars, and you calculate a position. And so I don't know how much more time do you want to go on. I think that's about it. I didn't get into much more detail on the photometric side, but that's basically an overview of what astrometry is.
Right. That's a lot to bite off.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot more detail, of course. I can show you some fancy stuff here.
Oh yeah.
How we do the measurement
Right.
with the image, and I can do a demo, but maybe
Yeah, and then the whole thing about plate solving that we do
Yeah.
today, and amateurs just kind of make that a regular part of their alignment method. It's really mind blowing certainly when you think about what it took to build up to this technology. Starting
Right.
before Hipparchus did his work. So.
So let me just quickly, I don't know if this will, let me go there. I don't know if this will let me, 254. I'm just going to show you quickly what's involved with plate solving in terms of how, just as a diagram, okay? All right, so this gives you an idea of what's going on.
Richard Gray said he just solved his plate. It's empty, and he's going to go wash it.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
So just the basic process is you take your image, okay,
Okay.
and you know closely or somewhat closely where the center of the plate is, where you point it at. You know what objects you're pointing at. And so what the software does is it overlays the catalog on top of the image virtually. All right, and then it scales it. It stretches it. It slides it back and forth. It
Okay.
rotates it to match the stars in the catalog.
Deform it to let's say that the lens had some effect of pincushion or
Right. It calculates all those distortions. Right. It does a least squares fit on all those, or maybe a third or fourth order fit
Wow.
to
Yeah, see,
calculate,
that's amazing.
to fix those positions. That's
That
right.
is amazing right there. It can do that.
Yeah. So this is kind of what it does. You can see here. Let's see what else. I just wanted to bring that up real quick to show you what's involved with that process.
Yeah. Plate solving technology is incredible.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is. That's your own personal measuring engine.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
That doesn't weigh a ton.
You're taking hundreds of years of work.
Well, we just take it for granted that we can just do it. It's just.
Oh yeah, you put it in there and let it plate solve, and it spits out a number for you, and you're done.
Yeah, it's real time.
You don't even need the number anymore. It just helps you figure out where you are. So
the pioneers really
unbelievable, really. So
yeah, even you're a pioneer in this, in somewhat. You went through the hand guiding process and guiding. So the pioneers went through a lot of work to get to where we are today, and it wouldn't be available.
I felt like I was being tortured.
That's exactly. But
guiding was hard.
Well, it shows a level of commitment to the process and to the interest of it. So a lot of amateurs get into it today, and we talk about it every once in a while. Some people just expect things to work without doing much work, but that's not the goal of the amateur astronomy hobby.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is the journey and learning
That's
the
right.
processes and how it works, and understanding the history of the way things came to be is really important in that regard.
Right.
Uh,
Jim Norwood wants to know what's a good program to get started with plate solving. What's your favorite program for plate solving, Jerry?
well, I've used several. Early on, I used a program and a book that was called the AIP for Win. Richard Berry,
AIP.
AIP, the number 4, WIN. That's a great software to buy because it teaches you how to manually learn the plate solving, how it works. You get an
Okay.
idea of exactly what's involved. It will automate some of that, but again, it helps you. It helps you learn how it works. Uh, Other plate solving tools, I use one that's integrated into Maxim DL. It's called Pinpoint, and our friend Bob Denny
Oh,
created
yeah,
that.
that's right.
That's a
Yep.
great tool. There's some more recent ones. Pinpoint's been around for probably 20 years, I
No,
imagine.
that's not a free program.
No, it's not. It's not a free
Yeah.
program, but you get what you pay for
Oh, that's true. And he gives you
in a lot of
professional.
ways. But
That
although
is professional.
there's a lot of free things. So one of
Yep.
my one of my favorite things to go to, and I can actually let me share my screen real quick again.
Sure.
I'm going to share my web page, and I'm going to go to a website that everybody can use. It's freely available. It's developed by a university. It's called astrometry.net. It's actually
Oh,
the
yeah.
website is nova.astrometry.net. Okay, and this is a great site. I discovered this early on around 2009, and the source code's available. They made the source code available, and that's what a lot of the newer plate solving tools use is this source code
Mm-hmm.
from astrometry.net. Like I think Astro Tortilla, I think Sequence Generator Pro, or one of these other programs. Nina, I think, has plate solving built in that uses the source code. But this is a great website. If you have the internet available to you, you can upload any image at all,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll solve it for you. So give that a try.
Right.
That's one of
I
my favorites.
remember we used that, just a few weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago, where we were getting the plate solved with the telescope behind me here. So,
Right. So as a first cut, so there's different types of plate solves, okay? This does what's called a blind solve, which means you don't even have to give it a starting position to try out. A lot of times you'll know where the telescope's pointed at and you'll have a starting position, which makes it much easier. The starting position and the image scale are
mm-hmm.
the two things, or the plate scale are the two things that make plate solving very fast. If you don't know what either of those are, if you don't know what the plate scale is for the image or the position, then you need a blind solver, which is what
Mm-hmm.
astrometry.net is, a blind solver. And it takes a minute or two or three to solve, but it'll nail it. And then once you get that, it'll tell you what the plate scale is for the image. And if you don't know what your image plate scale is, you can calculate it. But if you don't know, you can submit one of your images to this and it'll tell you what it is.
Right.
And then you can set your local plate solver up for that. Uh,
Yeah, it's cool to see it work.
mm-hmm.
Well, Jerry, thank you. Thanks very much.
Yep.
Showing us our place in the universe again.
Our
So,
place in the universe, right?
and for all of you watching, thank you for watching our program again today. Do not miss the program tomorrow with David Kipping. Jerry and I will be on with him. And I think you'll really enjoy his commentary and insights into trying to measure something that is exceedingly difficult to measure, and a moon
Yes.
going around an exoplanet. So
Right.
right? And so really happy to have him on the show.
They haven't discovered too many exomoons yet. Very
Yeah,
few.
so it's a really new field.
It's
I don't
really
know
new
if
field
amateurs
and really hard.
participate in this or not, but anyhow, we'll learn more tomorrow. And until that time, you guys keep looking up, and we'll see you. Take care.
The Southern Cross Astronomical Society of Miami, Florida is proud to present the 2021 Winter Star Party Virtual Edition, February 8th through the 11th. Because of COVID, we will not be able to get together in person this year, but we won't let that stop us from getting together online with old friends and make some new ones. There will be all new presentations about double stars, astroarchaeology, Mars exploration.
Miss God, it's not very loud.
Enjoy classic videos from past winter star parties by Tippy D'Oria, Dr. Mike Reynolds, John Dobson, and more. There will also be door prizes, but you have to register online by January 30th. To register, please visit www.scas.org. Go to the Winter Star Party tab. Select 2021 Virtual Winter Star Party from the drop-down menu. Go to the bottom of the page. Enter your name and email address and press register. And best of all, it's free. Then join us February 8th through the 11th from 7 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on www.explorescientific.com/Winter Star Party. Mark your calendar. See you there.